Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to the Sims 4 speedrunning video, or welcome to the channel if you're new here. So in today's video I'm going to be building in the world of Henford-on-Bagley, which is the world that we got from the expansion pack Sims 4 Cottage Living, and I'm going to be building a cosy winter family home. So this house ends up having 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and it's built on a 30 by 20 lot. Now, when you enter a brand new save file and you visit the world of Henford-on-Bagley, I'm building on the area of the map that is the bottom left-hand side. It's called Finchwick Village, or just maybe Finchwick. I always refer to it in my head as Finchwick Village. I don't know if that's actually the name of it. And also, by the way, trying to say Finchwick Village very quickly is actually quite a bit of a tongue twister, but that is where I'm building. If you look in the top left corner of the screen, you might notice the name of the lot is the Gnome's Arms. And that is simply because when you enter a brand new save file, this is originally the pub. Now basically, the reason why I'm building here and not on one of the residentials in this neighbourhood is because when I was building this house, I knew coming into it, I wanted to have a little red car on the driveway and have like a little Christmas tree like on top of the car to make it look like the Sims that live in this house have recently just popped a local garden centre. They've picked up their Christmas tree and it's still like hanging on the car. But all the other lots that were big enough to fit this house that I wanted to build, they were kind of up some steps, and I'm thinking, well, how are you going to get your car up the steps? Because unless you've got like a Range Rover or like a Land Rover or something, it's not gonna happen. So I decided to build on one of the lots, which kind of like on the edge boundary of it is flat. I really hope you're following along with me, but basically I'm building on what used to be the pub, if you want a reference point. And also I have been getting quite a lot of questions recently where particular houses I've previously built are from, like where I built them in the world. For a reference point, every single speed build that I do, I purposely leave the original lot name in the top left corner of the screen, just because I think it's easier. And then that way you can always use it as like a reference point. So if you wanted to download this house and then you forgot where I said that it was built, you can just look in the top left corner of the screen and it's just kind of like an easy little thing to find. I mean, you can always just ask me in the comments because I do try and reply to every single comment that I get, but sometimes I might be like a day or two late in replying to your comments, and so yeah, it's just a bit quicker that way. But either way, besides the point, that was very long-winded. This week, I want you to sit down and build something very cosy, very warming, and just really homey. And as we are very near to Christmas, literally Christmas, and I'm doing this voiceover, is a couple of days away, I was inspired by this festive season. And so, yeah, I just want you to build something really homey, really cosy, and yeah, I really like it. And so I hope you guys like it as well. But anyway, getting on and talking a little bit more about the build itself. So you can see the main shell of the house has come together quite quickly. Now I do want to mention, I was looking at a picture when I was building this house. I'll find the picture and I'll pop it up on the screen now so you can have a little look. Basically this week, where Christmas is literally around the corner, I did my annual thing of watching, you know, The Holiday with Kate Winslet, Jude Law, Cameron Diaz, Jack Black, like all literally pretty much every single celebrity. Actually, I say that Love Actually is the celebrity field one, but either way, you know the film The Holiday, that every single year is my wrapping presents Christmas film, because basically every single year I have this little tradition with myself. I just do it on my own, but I watch The Holiday whenever I wrap presents for like people, and I was watching The Holiday and I was so inspired to build the house in The Holiday. Now if you're not familiar with the film The Holiday, first things first, please watch it. If you don't watch it this Christmas, watching it, actually you don't even have to watch it at Christmas, you could watch it in the middle of May. There is no rules to it, but if you've never seen The Holiday, highly recommend it, great film. But if you're not familiar from the house from The Holiday, I will pop a little picture on the screen quickly so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But I was just so inspired to build something with this kind of overall vibe, but I didn't really want to recreate the house from The Holiday, because if you actually look at it, it's basically just a rectangle with a triangular roof, which, don't get me wrong, it's beautiful in the film, but I just knew if I was going to try and recreate that in the game to be accurate, it would just literally just be a rectangle. And so I popped onto Pinterest, and quite literally on my homepage I ran into the picture that I popped on the screen, which was my reference point, instantly fell in love with it, and basically just wanted to recreate it straight away. Now in terms of the inside decoration for this house, I didn't decorate it to be like a over the top, the family that lives here lives and breathes Christmas. I decorated it to be Christmas-y, only in the lounge room. I feel like a lot of people will just, around Christmas time, I mean my family do anyway, we will just have a Christmas tree in the lounge room, which currently, it's actually really funny, currently the bottom part of it has no baubles in it, because if you watched my video last week, you might be aware, I just got a brand new puppy literally like a week ago or something. Like, he's brand new right out the box, and he likes Christmas baubles and the Christmas tree, and so we've had to remove half of them off the tree because he keeps on nibbling at them. But yeah, most people I feel like would just have like a little Christmas tree in their lounge room and call it a day. Maybe chuck some Christmas lights outside. That is basically the vibe that I decorated this house to be. It's not over the top Christmas decorated in your face. It's just a small little nod. There's a nice little decorated Christmas tree in the corner of the lounge room, and then the rest of the house I just tried to make really cozy and welcoming and warm. That ends up being a home office, and I end up using some modular bookcases and doing like a little bookcase wall with a little sofa in there. That also ends up being a fireplace, a computer desk, a chess table. It's very sweet, it's very cozy in this house, and I just absolutely love it. I mainly didn't go over the top with the Christmas decorations because of the fact of I didn't want you to download this house and play in it and love it, and then when Winterfest is over and done with in your game, then have to delete like half the decorations. And so yeah, I tried to decorate it to be somewhat of a realistic decorated family home. So you just got like a nice little nod in the lounge room. Once Winterfest has been and gone, you know, it's New Year, your Sims are making their resolutions, they could just delete the tree, maybe replace it with like a plant or something, and yeah, you're good. It's just then a nice little cozy family home in the village of Finchwick. But either way, getting on and actually talking about what I'm doing right now. So as you can see, I just came in, did the floor plan for the house, and I'm currently coming in and starting doing a bit of landscaping. You would have just seen I've placed a ton of different ivy on this house, and to me it just looks so beautiful. The ivy that I'm using isn't actually ivy, but it looks like it. It's from Jungle Adventure, the game pack, and originally in like summer, spring, it's meant to be like bright white, but in the colder seasons in the game, it goes this most beautiful, like deep, greeny, almost kind of like reddy kind of colour. And so, as you would have seen, I basically went around pretty much the whole entire house and just covered it with this ivy, and I just think it looks so good. You would have also seen that when I was placing down the ivy, I was playing around with the tool mod quite a bit, and that is purely because I knew that I wanted this house basically to be almost taken over by this ivy, because the thing is, I'm imagining that this house is built in England. Like, I imagine that this is like a little English cottage in some village somewhere, probably in like Suffolk or something, I don't know. But I was basically imagining that this house has been taken over by ivy, because a lot of the time in England, a lot of houses just get swallowed by the plant. And so as I was going around, I was placing down all this ivy, I was very much aware that in gameplay sometimes the ivy might be floating when the walls are down. You know, sometimes when you place them onto a wall, and then when you go half walls up, half walls down, you can still see it, and it's really annoying. I personally hate when I'm playing in a house myself and there's ivy just like floating everywhere, and it's just, to me it just distracts me and it winds me up. And so what I've started doing in all of my builds, and I did actually get a comment about this last week about how I make my ivy not show when, you know, half walls up, half walls down mode. Basically, I'll place down the ivy onto the wall, but then you might notice I get it to the point where the little green bit, you know, when you place an object, it's got like a little green tile bit underneath it. I'll get it so it's on the floor above where I want to place it, and then I'll select it using the tool mod, and then I'll elevate it down. That way, when I'm then on the downstairs level, the ivy that is outside on the walls isn't floating, and it's not looking weird, it's not irritating, because to me personally, whenever I play the game myself and there is ivy, it drives me up the wall. And so if you're wondering, if you want to play in this house, there's not going to be a ton of ivy blocking your view. I made a conscious effort to go around and basically move all of the ivy, so in gameplay it's not there, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I feel like I've started saying this quite a lot recently, but whenever I do any of my builds, I always think about the gameplay portion behind it and what will be the best way to build this house to make it easiest for gameplay. So I like the ivy, for example, and then when it comes around to even like the little things, like I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, you know, but whenever I do utility rooms, maybe now I've said it, you might notice it, but whenever I do utility rooms, I will always put the washing machine on the left-hand side and then the drying machine on the right-hand side, because to me, in my head, I go washing machine and tumble dryer. And so when I'm doing gameplay, my natural instinct is to go and click on the left one to wash your clothes, because that's the way that I say it. I don't, it sounds so weird, but I do that in my builds. And then when it comes around to it, figuring out bathrooms, I always try and make it so when the half walls up, half walls down mode is on, the toilet is in the easiest place to click, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I just want to let you know that whenever I do my builds, I do try and make them as easy as possible for gameplay, and also try and still make them look somewhat nice. But either way, moving on, besides the point. As you can see, I'm just currently coming in and placing down a few more ivy clumps onto the balls. Here you will see me play around with the tool mod, lowering it down, and then I basically check if it's floating, and once I have lowered it down, just to see, you know, if it's going to be annoying and stuff. Now, without stating the absolute obvious, which is very much the elephant in the room, I am building in the winter season, and so as you can see, there is a ton of snow, both on the house, on like the landscaping, the roofs, the floor. There is just snow absolutely everywhere. And if you're wondering, the house still looks good. Well, I think anyway, you might not think, but the house still looks nice in the other seasons, especially in autumn, I realised, because when I was coming in and I was getting my Sims to playtest this house, the snow kept on melting, which was so annoying, can I just say, but the snow kept on melting because I was trying to get it to be nice and sunny so I can get some really pretty screenshots. But then in doing that, the snowman that I tried to get my Sim to create, he melted, he was just a puddle by the end of it, and yeah, it basically went into almost like an autumn season. And so if you're wondering, it still looks quite relatively nice in the other seasons in the game. It's not just like a winter house that looks nice in the winter season. And also, after I finished filming, I came in and I placed down some terrain paint because where there's snow on the floor, I can't see what I'm doing. I have actually attempted to do terrain paint before in the past when I was building in the winter season, and it looked all right, but I don't know why I did it because I'm basically building blind. And so this time round, I have come in and I have done the terrain paint, but I did it when I could actually see the floor and not just, you know, basically do it with my eyes closed. But in terms of the actual landscaping itself, as you can see, I very much went for a lot of bushes and not a lot of colour, mainly because half the plants were dead, so I couldn't really add too much colour. But I did find this one tree, which I think the one that I've used is from the new expansion pack. You know, the Sims 4 Rent EP? There is a tree in the live edit menu, and it's initially a really big red tree, but if you size it down, it keeps its original colour. It's just got a little bit of frost in it, which is really nice, because some of the flowers in the game, when it comes into like the autumn or winter seasons, they're just bones, there's nothing there. And this tree, when you are in the winter or in the autumn season, yeah, there's still some nice little red flowers. And so you would have seen in the landscaping, I basically went around and dotted about this tree and just sized it down ever so slightly to make it look like a normal like flower bush, but it's not, it's actually just a tree. But over here you can see that I've just incorporated the little red car with the Christmas tree on top, and to me, this just looks like, it looks like a Christmas card. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I actually got this idea for the little car with the Christmas tree from a previous video of mine, which I'd done, it must have been about 2 years ago now or something. I built a Christmas family home in the world of Windenburg, and I'm pretty sure for that Christmas house I went a little bit more over the top with all like the Christmassy bits and bobs. But in that house I did this same thing. I had a little red car and I moved objects, a Christmas tree on top of it, and I just absolutely loved it. And so for this house coming into it, straight away I knew that I wanted to do the same thing because I loved the last time I did it. And so yeah, basically what I did is I went through the live edit menu. I found a car which is from the Cottage Living live edit menu. It's like this little red Mini, and then I placed it down onto the driveway. I then got my Sim to quickly off camera come into the build and attempt to try and put some decorations on the tree, but then I force quit her doing it in the process, because basically when you originally pull out a Christmas tree, the ones that your Sims can decorate in game, there's like a load of different boxes underneath it. It's meant to be like the Christmas decorations that your Sims are going to put up, which I like the idea of it, I like the realism part of it, but when you're trying to use a tree to make it look like it's on top of a roof of a car and then you've got some random boxes floating, it looks a bit weird. And so what I did is, yeah, I got my Sim to come in, get her to start putting some decorations on the tree, but then I force quit her, but then that way all the boxes had disappeared, but then there was like nothing on the tree, there was no decorations. I then saved that tree to like my inventory, and then basically I pulled it out once I put the car down onto the driveway. I sized it down ever so slightly, and then using the tool mod I rotated it 90 degrees and just plonked it on top of the car. I also used a swatch of the Christmas tree that your Sims can decorate to be like kind of like a snowy one, because the Christmas tree that your Sims can actively decorate with like all the members of the family in the game, there is 3 swatches of it. There is a completely green swatch of it, then there is a green, and then it looks like it's got some sort of like snow dust on top of it, and then there is a complete snow one. I use the middle one, so it looks like the snow that's on the tree is just real snow. It's not like meant to be a part of the tree. It just looks so realistic and it looks really cool. And then also you would have seen when I moved objects and rotated the tree on top of the car, I still had a little bit of the original tree stand kind of like poking out. And so what I did is I then went into the dresser category. I found some suitcases. I got 3 out in total, sized them up to like different heights and different basically sizes, I then rotated them and then basically moved objects them also on top of the car, so then it was covering like the tree stand. Previously, when I've done this before in the past, I'm pretty sure I use the bedside table that we got from the City Living expansion pack that looks to be suitcases, but this time round we actually now have the ability for your Sims to invite like their friends and their family over. And I was thinking, there is a spare guest bedroom, by the way, in this house, but I was thinking that maybe the family members have invited Nan and Grandad round, they're coming around for Winterfest, and their luggage is on top of the car. It just nicely covers it, and it also just, it adds a nice little bit of realism. But either way, besides the point, moving on, as you can see, I've now moved on into the inside of the house. Started off by like the front initial hallway. So like I said, in terms of the decoration for the inside of this house, I tried to make it seem somewhat realistic, Christmassy. Like, I didn't want to go over the top, I didn't want it to be in your face. I wanted it to be basically easy to remove the Christmas decorations once Winterfest has been and gone in this house. But in terms of the individual bedrooms and the idea for the family that I had living in this house, I was building to some sort of storyline. But then saying that, I feel like any sort of Sims family could live here. It's decorated quite generically, but when I was building this house, I did have an idea in mind for both the parents and then also the children in this house, which, I say children, I built it for a set of parents, a teenager, a kid, and then there is also a spare guest bedroom, but I will speak about that more when I move on into the individual rooms. Currently, as you can see, I'm just coming in and decorating the lounge space. So in here, basically, in terms of the decorations, I just wanted to make it feel as homey, as welcoming, and just as cozy as what I could possible. I knew that I wanted to have some sort of like cozy looking sofa, but I didn't want to use two of the same sofa, and so I decided to use one that we got from the Nook Kit. That one's got like blankets and pillows on it, and then I used a base game one, and then I used this really big fireplace that we've got from the Cottage Living expansion pack. I then moved objects, a telly in front of it, and then I also moved objects, some sort of like pine cone leafy kind of decoration. It's got a ribbon on it, it's very nice, but I moved objects out onto the fireplace. I was really wishing that we had some sort of like stocking or even just a pair of socks that I could have used with the tool mod and try and make it look like stockings hanging off the fireplace, but unfortunately we don't have anything like that in the game. And so you'll see near the end of this room, I find hear me out, I find a random towel and I move objects there onto the hook of the fireplace. I was thinking it could be somewhat Christmassy, I don't know. And then also just then, I don't know if you would have noticed, but when I was decorating this little armchair area, I placed down a bin bag. Now, I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but in my household, Christmas Day, as soon as you start opening the Christmas, actually not even as soon, before you even start opening the Christmas presents, a bin bag is accumulated in my lounge room, and every single time you unwrap something, the wrapping paper goes straight into the bin bag. It goes into recycling, like we recycle in my household, but there is a bin bag in my lounge room every single Christmas Day, and it's been like that for like 25 years. And so when I was decorating this lounge room, I thought it'd be nice to have like that little realistic detail, but then I thought about it and I thought, well, realistically, how many people are going to want a random bin bag just sitting next to an armchair? And so I did decide to delete it, but I mean, you could definitely add it back if you want like a little extra realistic touch into this lounge room. But yeah, I placed down the armchair by the Christmas tree. The Christmas tree as well, by the way, I pre-made. Now, we do have a already decorated Christmas tree in the game. The one that we have, I think, is from the free holiday pack, but I personally prefer the look of the Christmas tree that your Sims can decorate themselves. And so basically what I did, before I came in and I started filming, I got my Sim to pre-make a Christmas tree, and I basically shoved it upstairs. I feel like, was it Art Attack or Blue Peter that I used to watch when I was little? And there used to be some sort of like art program that I used to watch. I think it was Art Attack. But they always used to make something, and then they always used to pull one out from like the corner or something, or from the cabinet. And they used to be like, oh, this is basically what you're going to do, but this is one that I made earlier. I feel a bit like that, but basically, yeah, that is what I did. I pre-made the Christmas trees. Then when I placed it down, I could just place down all the presents, all the toys, the teddy bear, just clutter it up with loads of different like playful Christmassy bits and bobs. I also tried to make it seem like there was some sort of like train track going in front of the Christmas tree. I don't know if you would have recognised it. I hope I did a good job of it, but basically from the Parenthood game pack, you know when your Sims go to school and then sometimes they come home and they've got a school project, sometimes they can make some sort of like bridge, and there is the bridge in the debug menu for that DLC. And so what I did is I went for the debug menu, found that bridge, and then basically put two together, and then I found a normal train like there's going to be an abnormal train. I found a train in the build and buy category, and then I sized that down and I put it next to it, and I was thinking it could be like a little train track going around the Christmas tree. I just thought it was a really sweet little detail. But either way, besides the point, moving on, as you can see, I've now moved over into the next room, which is the kitchen. So in here, I decided to use the counters that we got from the Cottage Living expansion pack in this kind of like deep browny kind of colour. I never seem to use these counters in this one particular swatch, but I don't know why, because it's actually a really pretty swatch. And the thing is as well, this counter swatch actually has quite normal cabinet curtains, which sounds really strange, but basically with these counters that we got from the Cottage Living DLC, they have like built-in little curtains into the cabinet pieces, which some of the swatches of the curtains are really funky. Like you might have, say for example, a really nice like oak light wood tabletop and then like white cabinets, but then the curtain to match on the cabinets is like bright yellow or bright blue or something, and sometimes it's quite hard to decorate too. But yeah, these cabinets in the brown swatch, the little curtains are in this really nice beigey colour. But in here I end up placing down a standalone mixer, I placed down a kettle. Where I was building this to be somewhat of an English little house, I felt like it was only necessary to include a kettle somewhere, and so I placed down a new kettle that we got from the latest DLC in the corner. That also ends up being a microwave. And now thinking about it, I'm pretty sure I end up placing down, you know, the new, like, it's not a hot pot, it's like a steaming thing. From the new For Rent DLC, we got a kettle, and then we've got also some sort of like, it looks like a rice cooker, but you can cook more things than just rice in it. I placed that down into here as well. It's very appliance heavy, and there's also a dishwasher. There's a lot of different kitcheny bits and bobs basically in this kitchen. But when I was decorating this house, I was thinking one of the parents in particular loves baking. They're a proper like homemaker, and so I was thinking it might be nice if they had lots of just stuff in their kitchen to make all the different kind of brownies, all the different kind of breadsticks, all the different kind of cupcakes, and just all the different stuff. They're a proper little chef in the kitchen, and so yeah, it ends up being quite appliance heavy. But in terms of the oven in this room, I decided to use a separate hob and then separate oven piece, which initially I didn't really want to do for this kitchen, because to me this is quite a traditional-ish kind of house, and I feel like the separate hob and the separate oven piece are quite modern. I don't know if you agree with me, but I just feel like they're quite modern in some sort of like degree, and so I didn't initially want to use them, but there was no appropriate place to place down a standalone oven, you know, like a normal one that can do the top stuff and the top stuff and the bottoms. You know, when your Sims can use the hob, but then they can also use the oven. There wasn't the appropriate place to place one of them down, because I didn't want to block the back window and have an oven in front of it, because to me that's just so unrealistic. And so yeah, I did decide to use a separate hob and then oven piece. I placed it down into the breakfast bar area, and then I decided to place down the sink in front of the window, which I normally try and do anyway, which is something that I don't know if you've noticed in my builds if you watch me regularly, but normally in my kitchens, if there's a window, I try and put the sink in front of it, because I always like the idea of your Sims being able to wash up the dishes or maybe get some water or something, and they can look out the window and look onto their garden or their driveway or something. But yeah, I placed down a sink in front of the window, and then onto the actual window itself, I did decide to clutter up the kitchen's like almost ledge of the window. Now I only do it for the kitchen because I realised once I was doing it, there were some really deep shadows onto the objects that I was moving objects into the window itself, and so I only decided to do it for the kitchen. But I placed down some little plants onto the windowsill, I placed down like a little lamp, I tried to basically lighten it up, it didn't really work, and then I also placed down I think some cookbooks as well. But also, side subject, I'm really sorry if you can hear anything going on in the background. Don't know what's happening, but there is some sort of storm outside and it is so windy, and so if you can hear any sort of like ruckus, it's basically just the weather. Unfortunately, I cannot control it. If I could control it, it'll be snowing right now, but unfortunately I cannot do that. But either way, moving on, as you can see, I've now moved over into the next room, which is a little dining room. So in here, I end up going for the cats and dogs table, and then I decided to pair it with the chairs that we got from the Horse Ranch expansion pack. And then kind of like near the back window, I placed down, it's actually meant to be a sofa. Again, it's from Cats and Dogs, but basically I wanted it to look like, you know, sometimes when people have like sofas or benches around their dining room table, I personally love the effect of it. And so sometimes if I've got enough space to have one and still all members of the family can like sit down and eat together, I will try and have some sort of like little built-in, I say built-in, but some sort of like sofa that your Sims can't sit on, but it looks nice for decoration. So By the way, your Sims can't actually actively sit on that back sofa that I merged all them pillars into. It is just purely for decoration, but I just thought it looked really nice and really homey and really sweet, and so yeah, I decided to make a little like cushioned area on top of the sofa. Also, by the way, kind of on the subject, I want to let you know I have playtested this house. As always, I playtest every single house before I put it onto the gallery, even before I do my voiceovers normally, because if ever there's any problems that I run into when I'm playtesting to make, you know, sure the house is actually usable, I like to let you know, so then if it comes around to downloading and you notice something's a little bit different, I do try and mention it. But yeah, I have playtested this whole entire house. I didn't really run into any major problems. Off memory, I only ran into one problem when playtesting, and it was upstairs. It was in the kids' room. I sized down a doll's house a tiny little bit too small, and so I just sized it back up ever so slightly and it worked. But then other than that, I don't think there was any other issues. There was a slight issue that I ran into in the kitchen. I say slight issue, it was literally just I had to move something over. But on the hob in the kitchen, on the little breakfast bar, I placed down a pot onto the stove, and I placed it down to the wrong side, because you can merge in stuff onto the hobs in the game, but it just has to be on one side of the build. Whatever side I put that pot on the stove, you have to place it on the opposite side of the stove and then it will work basically. But yeah, I just switched that around. But in terms of all like the beds, the stuff in the house, everything else works. Everything that I placed down to be intentional working works basically, apart from like the little sofa that I placed down into the dining room because that was purely for decoration. And then also around the Christmas tree, I feel like it's probably a bit of a given, but I placed down a ton of different presents and, you know, toys and stuff. I was building this knowing that that wasn't going to work, but I feel like if you just remove the presents that I placed around the tree, I reckon it would work, because there's enough space for your Sims to actively place a present pile. Because if you do celebrate Winterfest in your game, that is something that your Sims can do. They can place down little presents underneath the tree, and depending on how many times you click on the tree, more and more presents will add to it. And so yeah, if you want to, you can definitely just remove the present pile that I've placed and make your Sims basically build their own. But anyway, moving on, as you can see, I've now moved over to the next room, which is the home office. So in here, I was decorating this home office to be for one of the parents in particular, who I imagine spends quite a lot of their time here, because basically when I was building this house, I really liked the idea of one of the parents being a professor, and they're in the process of writing one of their books that they're going to be releasing. I was thinking that they've previously like published a couple of books, you know, they've done really well, they're a professor at the local university, and they have like a little home office where they go in, they put the fire on, they have like a little cup of tea or a cup of coffee or something, and yeah, they write their books. And the view from the desk window, I basically placed down the computer desk bang on in front of one of the windows, so your Sims can sit there, and if they were to look over their computer screen, they can just like look out into the world of Henford-on-Bagley. It's very pretty. But I also placed down some sort of like modular bookcase wall in there. I merged in a sofa in between it to make it look built in, and then I also placed down a chess table just for fun. It's another skill building thing, but yeah, that was in the little home office. But as you can see, I've now moved over to the next room, which is the guest bedroom of this house. Sorry for the other disclaimer in this video, but if you can now hear something else going on in the background, it's because I've now got a puppy probably about a foot, not even a foot away from the microphone, because my brand new pup had accumulated a plant pot downstairs, and as I've been speaking, he has been ripping this plant pot up to absolute shreds, and it is making so much noise. And I don't want to take it away from him. Like, I don't want to take away his toy, because to him, even though he's got about 1,000,001 toys, a plant pot and an airwick lid, not joking, is the best thing since sliced bread. So I've brought him upstairs, and he's currently sitting on my lap. I did this last week, but because I'm talking about him, I will put a picture of him on the screen so you can see what I'm currently cuddling. He's very warm, he's like a little radiator. But yeah, if you can hear him moving or doing anything, that is what that is. He's a very cuddly dog, so me just sitting here just stroking the back of his head is absolutely fine, and he seems to be content with that. But he doesn't like to be left alone. He is a baby, like he's a proper baby, he's like 2 months old, bless him. So yeah, I'm really sorry if you can hear that, but he's cute, and if you've seen a picture of him, you probably couldn't blame me, because he's just absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, that is what that is. But anyway, besides the point, as you would have seen, I just did the guest bedroom. Now, initially coming into this house, I was intending for that guest bedroom just to be like a more fancy dining room, because initially I knew that I wanted there to be a little dining room off the kitchen, and I was thinking I'd make that into like a little breakfast room, you know, somewhere for your Sims to go of a morning time, have their oatmeal, have their eggs and toast, you know, have their breakfasty bits and bobs and their morning cup of tea. But when I was finished decorating that room, I then realised, well, I don't really need any extra space. I mean, there's enough seats for all of the Sims to sit around the table, and if I was to just decorate another dining room, there's no real added gameplay, whereas if I was to add like an extra guest bedroom, then there's like a little bit more gameplay then, because you can have like relatives or friends and just, you know, family come over and stay. And so yeah, I did decide to give it so there is a guest bedroom in this house. Like I said, I tried to decorate it to be somewhat generic, and then I put a couple of different suitcases in the corner of that room as well. But either way, as you can see, I've now moved on to the upstairs, and I've started off with one of the bathrooms. Now for this house, it doesn't end up being a bathroom downstairs, which normally I do try and have it so there's at least one toilet and a sink downstairs. So if your Sims are like just about to go out for work and they're in the kitchen, or, you know, if your Sims are just about to go out the front door, I always like there to be a bathroom so your Sims can, you know, quickly pop in and have a wee or something. But just the way the floor plan worked out, there wasn't enough space for me to have a bathroom downstairs, so there just ends up being two upstairs. There's one that I just furnished, and then there is also a slightly smaller one which just has a shower and bath combo and then a toilet and a sink. And you can just about see it actually, as I've now moved over into the next bedroom, which is the bedroom for the little kid. So in this bedroom, I basically tried to make it so this kid has had probably every single hobby under the sun. I didn't want to decorate it to be to a particular theme. I didn't want to decorate it to be a certain hobby or skill set or something. I was just thinking, this kid is just a proper kid who just likes everything and probably changes his mind as much as they change their socks. And so in here I placed down loads of different posters, loads of different like toys and stuff, just referencing loads of different things that you can do in the game if you are a kid. There ends up being a toy box which ends up having like a little train on it, and I was thinking it was really nice because it kind of then makes me feel like the train set that I placed downstairs in front of the Christmas tree could maybe be their Christmas present, and like they're yet to receive this train set from their parents or Father Winter. And so I thought that was a really nice idea. But then also in here I placed down some like gaming consoles onto their bedside table, some little toys and random crayons and just like loads of different bits and bobs. Also placed down a little drawing table in the corner, and then I also placed down some Seasons Debug like winter crafts. So if you're not aware, I feel like most people probably do know this by now, but you know the little activity drawing table that kids can use? Well, basically, depending on the time of the year, kids can sit down and they can make crafts depending on the season. So for Winterfest, they can make Winterfest crafts, or they can make Love Day or Harvest Fest or Spooky Day, all the different like holidays that we have in the game. Your Sims kids can basically make little like arts and crafts bits and bobs for them, and it's just so cute, and you can find them in the debug menu. And so I placed down some kind of like behind the activity drawing table itself, and it looks like the kid has made things to look like Father Winter out of like paper plates and bits of scrap paper and stuff. And so yeah, I placed that down onto the walls, and then also in their room I also placed down a couple of different teddy bears onto their bed. I cluttered up some shelves. I cluttered up the shelves, but I made sure that in half wall up and half wall down mode, the items that I placed down are on a back wall, so if you do play with like half walls up, half walls down, they won't be floating, like you can just see them when the walls are up, if that makes any sense. But then also in this room I placed down a doll's house. That is the doll's house that I was speaking about, which when I came round and I got a kid to like playtest that little doll's house, it was just sized down a little bit too small. And so what I decided to do was size it up just by one, and then I placed down a radiator as well in that room. I placed down a lot of radiators actually in this house. I don't know if you've noticed it, but if I didn't finish a room with a radiator, I've basically gone back and added a radiator, and I'm pretty sure it's when I do the parents' room I return back to like the other rooms in the upstairs area and I placed down radiators. And so yeah, that is something that I added into pretty much every single room, as well as light switches, which when I was initially furnishing I did forget the light switches, but when I was coming in I was taking the screenshots and I was playtesting, I realised I'd put light switches on the downstairs and not the upstairs, which realistically makes absolutely no sense. So I did decide to add some in. But as you can see, I've now moved over into the next bedroom, which is a bedroom that I decorated for a teenager who really likes to bullet journal. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term bullet journal or bullet journaling. It is something where you basically make your own diary for the year. It is so cool, and I feel like especially this time of year when we're entering a brand new year, a brand new basically fresh start, if you want to put it that way. A lot of people do pick up bullet journaling, and me personally, I'm going to get one again. I've had one previously in previous years, but in the past year or two I haven't had one, but it's very much something that I'm going to be doing in this next upcoming year. And so when it came around to decorating this teenager's bedroom, I was just kind of inspired by that, and so I thought it'd be really fun to decorate this room to basically be for a teenager that loves bullet journaling, loves arts and crafts, has like a massive like stationery addiction. And so you'll notice, especially on their desk, I placed down loads of little journals. The ones that I placed down are ones that Sims can actively use in the game. I did move objects to them and like merge them into the desk, so I don't think them ones are going to be usable, but I did plop a usable journal on the desk, and then I moved objects, a little pen on top of it. But then in terms of the rest of the clutter in this room, I basically just tried to find every single clutter piece, every single type of decoration that had some sort of pen pot, some sort of like pencil case looking item onto it, and put it into this room because yeah, I just thought this was such a lovely idea for a teenager, and I've never done this before for a teen. And so I think I might do this in maybe some future teenagers' bedrooms, but just decorate it for different kind of teens that have different kind of styles and different personalities, but still really likes bullet journaling. Because the thing is, bullet journaling is literally for everyone. It is so fun, it's so creative, and yeah, I don't know why I ever stopped doing mine because I just love it personally. But either way, in this room, as you can see, I cluttered up their desk, put a ton of different journals, put loads of different plant pots and bookcases and just random bits and bobs. And then behind it, I placed down some little like neon lights. The ones that I've used are from the high school years expansion pack. And then initially, I was going to use a bed in here, which is from the Cottage Living expansion pack. I was going to use it in this blue bedspread swatch, but then I decided that I didn't really like it, and so I decided to change it for the bed that we got from the high school years expansion pack. Honestly, this is probably one of my most used beds in the game. I just absolutely love it. But I placed that down in the middle of the room. Also placed down a wardrobe in the corner, and then I did debate placing down a little bookcase, but then it just looked too furniture heavy, if you get what I mean. Like, it looked like there was too much furniture going on in this room, and so I do decide to remove the bookcase and place down a little armchair. The one that I've used is from the book Nook Kit. It looks really cuddly and just really cozy in there. And then I placed down a little ottoman next to it, and then I placed down a little tray that has an open book and then some glasses onto the ottoman. But other than that, I'm basically just going to go around the teenagers' room, finish it off, add some final decorations, and now, as you can see, I've moved over into the upstairs hallway. So this hallway is quite generically decorated in terms of there ends up being a nice little like running rug along the floor, there ends up being a side table, there's a mirror, but then there is an archway which you can just about see on the left hand side, and that goes into kind of like the little utility room portion of this build, because I really wanted this house to have laundry, but where there was no bathroom downstairs, I couldn't really fit one in. And so I was thinking, well, I've got this perfect space upstairs. Originally, this was actually just going to be a part of the kids' bedroom, but I thought, well, why don't I just wall it off, section it off. You know what I'm talking about. But I thought, why don't I just place a little wall, had a little archway, and then I could put the washing machine and tumble dryer in here that way. And so yeah, that is basically what I did. So I placed down the washing machine and the tumble dryer. I then placed down some sort of like shelving decoration that we got from the Launch Day Stuff pack, and then on top of the washing machine and tumble dryer, I placed down some like folded shirts. I placed down some little woven baskets. I was thinking maybe they were extra like towels and stuff, maybe like flannels and just clean washing basically. But then, as you can see, I've now moved over into the parents' bedroom, quickly just whipped around the upstairs of the house and popped down a few more radiators, because like I said, I wanted to try and remember to put down radiators in this build. To me, it is just so cozy and just, it's really homey seeing a radiator in the game. And we've recently got them from the For Rent expansion pack. We did previously have them in the game, but we had them from the Vampires DLC, and that one was purely for decoration, and it's a little bit more of like a traditional older looking radiator. But the new ones that we've got from the For Rent EP, I am a massive fan of, and so I wanted to place them down into this build. But as you can see in the parents' bedroom, there ends up being the bed that I've used from Seasons, and then I also used the same wardrobe that I used in the teenagers' bedroom. I just really like this wardrobe, and I feel like we really don't have that many wardrobes in the game. I feel like we've got so many different chests of drawers now, but we've only got like what, 4, 5 different wardrobes, and so I popped that down into here. It also ends up being a fireplace, but more so because on the exterior there was a chimney there, and if I can try and build a house and it have an exterior chimney and a fireplace on the inside, that just makes me happy because it's more realistic. And so yeah, I popped a little fireplace into here. Also ends up being a cat tree in the parents' bedroom, which I must admit, that is an object that I next to never use. I did try and attempt to place the cat tree downstairs in the home office because when I was building this house, alongside the parents, the teen and then the kid, I was imagining that this household had some sort of dog. I was personally thinking like a golden retriever or something, and then I was thinking that they had a really fluffy cat, and so I wanted to have it somewhere for the cat to, you know, go and like scratch the posts and stuff like that. We don't really have any activities for dogs really to do in the game, unless I'm forgetting. But me personally, if ever I've got a dog, I just give him a toy, and then I wish I could give the dogs in the game a plant pot because my dog absolutely loves them. But I never seem to have that many toys for dogs, but there seems to be cat trees for cats, and so where I was thinking there would be a cat in this household, yeah, I decided to put one down into the parents' bedroom. But anyway, as you can see, I have now moved over to the last space in this house. We are back outside, but I'm currently coming in and furnishing the little garage. So in here, I just tried to make this feel as realistic as possible, but then I say that I try and do that for all of my Sims garages. I end up placing down some bikes in the corner. I placed down the decoration box from Seasons. I didn't feel like it was realistic to add a radiator into the garage, and so I placed down a little heater that we got from Snowy Escape. In my head, your Sims can plug that in and then they can still like be warm in the little garage. But in here, I placed down the woodworking table and then the robotic station, which never used that in my build, but it kind of works perfectly for a garage. And so yeah, I decided to pop that down in here. But other than that, I'm going to go around the room, finish it off, and that is pretty much it. So anyway guys, I'm going to end this voiceover right here. As always, you can download this build via the gallery. My gallery ID is JessicapieYT, or just search the hashtag JessicapieYT or just the hashtag Jessicapie. Now, this is my last upload before Christmas Day, and so I just wanted to wish you a very Merry Christmas. I hope you have an amazing day, regardless of what you're doing. And even if you don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you just have an amazing Monday, basically. But other than that, thank you all so much for watching. And as always, if you do like my content, please do subscribe. And hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedbuilding video. Bye guys.